Hello, Ectosage here on the Sage channel, and today we're here to take a look at the Redeemer, finally. It is the Next Great Starship winner. It won out of all the groups that entered of showing their guns, and then moving on to the next stage of showing their ship designs, and then finally onto the final few, where this ship was chosen to be the best out of the bunch. I think by a small margin, because there were quite a few god dang beautiful ships out there, but this one is the winner, and it is a absolutely fantastically beautiful ship. It is designed to look like it is built by the Aegis people, and it will be in the actual game, and it is in the game now, of course. Can't quite fly it yet, but here it is. And you see that they have the nice little Aegis stamp up there, and the whole thing is extremely high quality. It's a beautiful, beautiful ship. Now, one of the things that most people were a bit unsure on when this ship was first shown are these big engines here, and to be honest, I still have mixed feelings about them myself. I originally actually thought they would be a bit different than they are. To be exact, in the way they work, because we've seen some people show them functioning, or at least we've seen the devs show them functioning, and it's sort of like this rippling heat pattern coming out here. That's actually how they showed it would actually work when they first presented this ship. And when I say they, at this point, I mean the actual people who designed the ship. But it looks like the earlier designs, where there would be little flames coming out of this giant glowy area here, may have been scrapped. And you see some misalignment there. Anyway, it's pretty cool either way. I'm probably not going to keep this ship, even though it's pretty damn awesome. I'm probably going to trade it in and go for the Carrack, which should be going on sale this Friday. But anyway, let's start our tour. Let's run around to the front of the ship again, and as per usual, with my extremely close looks, I'm going to stick my face right up to it and begin looking at it. And you'll notice that my frame rate here is a lot more stable. It's actually running at 60, even with the settings on high. It's a little jittery because that's just how Star Citizen is, where you turn one way and then your character sometimes tries to catch up and it causes some screen jitter, so we're still going to get a bit of that, but overall it's pretty awesome. And of course we still have motion blur on. So let's go ahead and start looking at the front. You see there's a lot of sort of larger shapes here on the ship right at the front, like this metal here that's bulked out, and you can see the nice cut bevel they have on this here. It's pretty nice stuff. It's a bit bigger than you might expect, but it is a bigger ship, so the detail probably will be larger overall. And remember, it was actually a ship built by fans. Well, I say fans, by people in the competition. I'm sure they are fans, but they're not just fans. But it is pretty cool. Nonetheless, we got guns at the bottom here. These look to be like some sort of custom guns. I'm not recognizing their actual type. But then over here we do actually have on this turret on the bottom two proper guns that I'm pretty sure are actually from the game. Anyway, let's go ahead. And I can't actually get a very good close look at this. This is pretty cool though. It has these little circular or cylindrical bits popping out here, almost as if it's some sort of weird creature with a small strange gas mask on. Pretty odd, but interesting. We got some maneuvering thrusters here, pretty simple and straightforward. Poly count leaves a little bit to be desired, but most of the time you're going to be seeing it from afar without issue. And we do appear to have what looks like some weirdness in the model right here. We've got these like stretch marks. So this ship might be retweaked a bit more before it's finally flight ready, which I wouldn't be too surprised at. Moving along, we have this turret here that I mentioned a second ago. This is a bit of a strange thing. A lot of the turrets they've shown, like the constellation turrets on the bottom, you always get into them from the top. This one you actually get in from the back, where there's a little passageway that connects here, you go through and then it disconnects. Bit strange and could be slightly cumbersome and troublesome. If the door is damaged, you might not be able to get in and out so easily. And also, it's another one of these turrets where you're not upside down. You're actually sitting in there the same way I'm looking right now, which of course can cut down on your field of view quite a bit, but this one looks like it has quite a bit of glass. So hopefully, actually I think my camera just went in there. Bear with me in 1 second. I'm going to just stand up right here, and for half a second you could see in there, but you can't see very much. But you probably do still have a pretty good field of view on this one, even if the turret sticking out the side might block a little bit. Anyway, let's keep moving. The turret itself is a cylindrical, or yeah, circular joint up there, and then nice little ones here. Nice amount of detail on these. You can actually see there's a nice little rivets actually in here. They are just squares, basically, with the center point pulled out a little bit, I think. Maybe even just triangles. But it is still pretty dang cool. And again, we do have some weird texture tweaking right here on this light. Not quite sure what that's about. Let's keep moving on. Nice little bolt there. I say bolt, I'm not exactly sure, but it looks like it's supposed to be a giant bolt. And then manual release, so maybe you'd pop that out and turn a handle inside and this whole turret would pop off so you could replace it. Pretty cool. More maneuvering thrusters up there. I'm going to be looking at a lot of the top of the ship later, once I either just go in the third person while sitting in the cockpit or try again to jump up on top from somewhere else. Anyway, let's keep moving on. This large area here is sort of, I think, yeah, the storage area for your troops, because this is actually a troop transport. And you can see that the door I was talking about earlier leads straight into that. And I can't open it. That would have been pretty funny if I could open it and climb in from here. Down on the bottom of this big area here, if we can actually fit under here. Not quite, but you can see we do have a door right there on the bottom. So this ship could dock with another ship and send people through there without breaking its seal, I believe. We got our landing gears here, which are pretty cool. I thought these were just two wheels conjoined at the middle, but they're actually two separate landing gears from each side that come down. Pretty cool stuff. Interesting pattern. They have the circular things, but overall pretty awesome. Oh, I thought I was able to get under there for a second, but not really. Pretty cool. Let's keep on moving. The ship has a lot of, well, sort of empty areas like this. It's not like the Gladius, which had just detail absolutely everywhere. This one it's a bit more spread out, but that's what you would sort of expect from a bigger ship, probably. You know, let's keep moving. Some nice paneling work here. Pretty simple and straightforward. Nice little interesting panel there that actually appears to be bent. It could just be a work with the textures, or it could be that it's actually straight and then the area behind it, the metal here, is actually bent, so it gives it an illusion of being bent. Pretty cool. Some lights here as well. Nice little details here and there with the lighting. I actually like that. And you can see there's another big light there. Then of course we have this sort of wing that pops out here. We got a big intake right there, which maybe feeds through and into these engines here. Okay, not sure what just happened. I got Alt-Tab, but as I was saying, the intake there seems to feed possibly into this, but it definitely feeds into smaller engines they have on the back. I'll get to in a second. These engines here do have their own intakes. As you can see, we got one there and one up there. That would feed through these larger engines here and out, of course, the back at these small points right here, which you can see these little tiny thrusters here would be able to maneuver. And then of course we have this large array here that we were looking at the start of the video, and actually it looks like this whole thing, it sort of is a metal like coppery pipe, and it comes out and then forks a bit wider and then goes back to a smaller one. I wonder if it can rotate left or right, possibly. Interesting. You can see though that the fins currently are offset a little bit. I think that's probably because if we were to look at this, no, I'm not exactly sure why that's happening. Maybe these engines are actually slightly at an angle and those fins aren't. That could be it, but I'm not exactly sure. These engines are pretty interesting though. I love the little tiny output thrusters here. It's a weird thing to see in action when the devs have shown it. Not quite sure how I feel about it yet. I think we'll need to see more. And if they had some sort of little flames coming out of these, as well as just sort of the rippling cloud of heat energy or whatever you want to call it, then maybe it would look a bit better. Anyway, we do have some nice detail on it though. It's actually I think better detailed than this inner area here, which you might actually expect. And by the way, I skipped over that, I'm sorry. They have these nice little, hello, can I get under this? They have these nice little fins actually here carved into the side, which is pretty cool. A nice little touch there. Pretty cool. The whole thing actually looks like it's carved out, that paneling. It's pretty awesome. But let's get back to the thruster, and you can see it's mirrored the thruster itself, or the engine, to left or right on itself for the most part, it looks like. And it's pretty interesting. Some nice little circular bits here. Not exactly sure what they're for. I'm assuming it's some sort of a release mechanism to take these apart and maintenance them. And these nice little triangular bits here. Unfortunately, it looks like the texture isn't exactly perfectly aligned to the center. Maybe it's intentional, but I'm not sure. And you can see some more stuff here. Looks like it might actually be modeled in there. That's why that U there isn't exactly smooth. It's just modeled in to actually give it its actual design. But pretty cool nonetheless. Unfortunately, I think I might, yeah, there's a seam right here. You see that right here between this piece of metal and this piece of metal? There's actually a small seam that you can see right through it into the rest of the hangar through there. Slightly unfortunate. Let's keep moving on though. Yeah, let's keep moving on. I remember that I think they're doing another pass on this ship, maybe two, so a lot of these issues will probably be fixed or tweaked a little bit. Because we did see some gray box nonsense going on with the cockpit on Sandy's Facebook page. Okay, so what do we got here? Yeah, this really makes me feel slightly uneasy. frankly, because it has this big connection joint here. It's this big circular thing, but then just sort of flat on this side. This one has a little bump out, you can see there, and it eats into the metal up there. That's sort of pretty cool. I'd almost expect some carved-in detail into the ring around it, sort of like these vents here, except for all around it. Sort of like maybe it's another way to connect. But of course, this big thing does have to move into this area, so maybe you wouldn't at the same time. And then this one here is also very, very flat on the inside. In fact, I'd say too flat. Maybe it should have a bump out like that one does there, but this one doesn't really have anything at all. Slightly unfortunate there, and you can see how it does sort of just go this way to our left and then just drop straight in on the circular piece. The outer edge of this is pretty awesome though, because you can see we have this sort of cut in here where they have some fins or whatnot, vents almost, and then the whole rest of it actually loops all the way around, sort of like a big hand gripping the center circular bit there, but leaving a small gap right there on the left. It's pretty cool the way it's curved around that. And then we even have these little bits here with almost arrows to indicate sort of this is how it's going to move, with these big things moving up and down like big clamps. Pretty cool though. And then of course we got this here is a sort of bump out. Oh, it bumps in. Interesting. So a bump in to connect with that. And of course it makes sense that it would bump in. If it bumped outwards, it would actually interfere with that then. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Some nice detail here. Let's keep moving though. Let's get on to the back of the ship now. And on the back of the ship right away we see these large outputs here for those intakes I was talking about earlier at the front of the wings. And so it spits out a lot of power right here from these. Pretty cool. Looks like maybe one of its main propulsion points. I don't know exactly how much these propel. They're very unique and interesting things, so we'll have to wait to see more in the future. And it looks like these might actually be closed at the moment, be able to open. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Even a little beacon there or something. But let's go ahead, look right above us. You can see we have this strange paneling here, which is very nice. It looks like it opens, and behind it are two like metal racks. And that is because this big thing right here opens, and I think it actually slides all the way out, and then there's a storage area there where they can move cargo out and then drop it down to the ground. It's actually very, very cool in the demonstrations they've shown before. As for the actual way into the ship, it is right here on this door, and unlike the Cutlass, there's no button to push, you just go up to it. Still not sure how I feel about it. I'd like to see maybe a little button right here on it or something. I don't like the idea of having the button on the landing gear like they do have on the Cutlass. That always bugs me, but if they had it like right here, that would be pretty damn cool. Let's go ahead, and I've just noticed there's another seam right there between, you see the gray door, there's sort of this dark around the edges of it? Well, between that dark around the edges of it and the rest of the ship metal, you can see there's a seam right there where you can see through the ship. Slightly unfortunate. What else do we have here? Landing gears, just before I go in there. Landing gears, pretty cool design. A bit extra blocky, a lot of stretched textures right there. That's all sorts of not good. Troublesome, troublesome, troublesome. Some blockiness here. Again, I think they're doing another pass, and we'll see a lot of this change. They probably just wanted to give the ship to us with its PBR rendering, physically based rendering, if you don't know, and let us walk around and take some pretty cool tours. Oh, by the way, I didn't notice these here. These little tiny vent intakes cut into the corner edges here. You can see there's a slight bevel along the edge, and it's sort of like it just jumps in more and then jumps back out before jumping in again and then jumping back out. Pretty cool. Nice little detail on that little door-like thing there as well. Very interesting. I look forward to seeing the ship tweaked a bit more. Let's go ahead right now, though, and pop this open and quickly back away. And you can see there is a great amount of detail on these that just came down. This is pretty good. But you can see we got cables that go up and back into it. We got these nice little gear pattern here to sort of show how it would turn. Very cool. We got the fact that it does have a big cylindrical thing here, then stuck into this sort of bronzy bit of metal. Very, very cool. As if this bronzy bit of metal is actually the main support for the door. Very, very cool. Even the side detail here, where when the doors are closed, it's hidden away. Very cool. So let's go ahead and pull that door down again. Kind of dangerous to be pushing that door and having to back away like that. If I was to, well, it is early alpha, so let's just not even bother with that. Okay, a little cut, so let's not even bother with the door closing on us. My computer alt-tabbing again. Very strange. New computer. That's why I'm able to run this at very high settings, 1080p, and still have a perfect 60 frames per second. Pretty nice, though. Hopefully I'll be able to get up to 4K at some point. Anyway, let's keep looking into the ship. You can see we have a manual release here. It looks like you maybe punch into that and pull something out, or maybe this whole thing here is supposed to be a big white handle, and you grab it and pull it out. There's another one over here on this wall, as well as a pretty cool little screen. It's pretty nice overall. And you can see we got some buttons here and stuff. I'm pretty sure the use button thing we're getting right now is just for the door. And we are getting some frame rate drops here. Let's give it a second. It should stabilize. There we go. It's stabilized now. So you can see we got these little buttons here that don't really seem to do anything, but they're pretty cool. They got detail going up in the ceiling. It's pretty nice. So let's go ahead and close this door. Pretty damn nice thing. Let's open and close it just to admire the piston work here and the fact that it rotates there and it rotates there while the piston's moving. Now you can see the cables sort of go through it, but it's not something you usually don't notice, so it might just be horrible. Either way, it's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and keep moving into the ship. You can see some nice little details here. This is sort of the thing I was talking about, maybe putting on the inside of those big cylindrical things on the wings. We got what looks to be a medical cabinet that I don't think we can open. I doubt it's even modeled behind it, but it does look like it's actually modeled for the door itself. On the other side, we do have that button I was mentioning earlier, I think. Once we look in here, a bit of a strange choice to have this sort of slant up to the ceiling right here where it slants upwards, almost making it feel like this is a completely different segment than the rest of the ship, but maybe in a way that works fine because this could be where some of the mechanical stuff for this door is. And if we were to look at the outside, it is where the land gear goes up, so it is sort of a different segment, so I don't know, I can see that being alright. And then we got the main compartment here. We got a bunch of seats for people to sit down on. Oh, dearie, dearie me. You see that right there? You can actually see letters through a small triangular gap right there in the wall. So it looks like another little gap in the ship. Slightly unfortunate there. Do we have one mirrored on the other side? We don't. We don't. That's good. That's good. I'm sure they'll patch that. Got some nice cabling running above those chairs and going into the ceiling at different points. Mirrored on this side as well. Pretty cool. Nice big cable up there. Small clip through the metal support. Slightly unfortunate, but it is a pretty interesting thing to see these pipes go along. And I love the fact that as it's going along, another pipe shoots up and joins up and goes through there. Pretty cool. Some Z fighting. I think we can ignore that for now. Probably be fixed in the future. What do we have here? Let's actually take a look at the chairs. They're pretty cool. You can see that the base is designed to fold up to give you a little bit more room in here. And then, of course, we have these big metal things that would hold you in place that flip up and flip back down. Pretty cool. And you can see the sort of the triangular design that has sort of become an ageist thing. So that is probably something we could see. And also, they seem to have these little buckle openings here and here. And is there one down in this chair itself? Maybe that's what that would be. So maybe you could also have a proper, almost seatbelt-like thing as well as the big metal overreaches. Pretty interesting. And it actually looks here, if we look at this little point here, there's this little circular joint here. Maybe this big thing above the seat even comes down as well. Maybe to protect your head or something. Not exactly sure, but it is interesting nonetheless. And these whole things are actually, I'm noticing, carved into this sort of greenish gray black wall here. Pretty cool. And then from these chairs we do have some more pipes sticking out and going up and into these big things here, which I believe is, yep, mirrored on the other side. Not exactly sure what these big things are. Let's see. I'm assuming there's some sort of storage lockers. Pretty cool nonetheless. Not really any buttons or anything on them, so can't tell for sure. It should be noted, though, that at the bottom of the ship here, you can see it starts to bend forward at both sides because this is where the ship begins to narrow. And then, of course, it leads up into everything else. But first, we're going to go through this door next to a nice little fire extinguisher with some clipping issues there. So let's open that door. And it's pretty cool on these doors is it looks like you actually have to click near... Okay, no you don't. I thought you had to click near the button, but it looks like you just click the door and it opens. Pretty cool. I could see in the finished game it being a contextual thing where you click on the door and your hand automatically just reaches for the button. But in here we have a bit of a weapons locker of sorts with some storage stuff and some nice Aegis stuff on glass for weapons. Pretty damn cool. Don't know why that one's red and the others aren't. Pretty cool that they switched up the colors though to break it up a little bit. I think this is more weapons, and then we have this chair here where right now it doesn't work, but you would see you would sit down on it, press a button, that would go down around you, and this is where it would sort of connect into that turret we looked at on the outside. I like the fact that this has this nice little storage area here. I like the fact that it has these smaller spaces. Something ships like the Constellation are just missing. And the constellation might actually be bigger than this, might have more floor space, but because it doesn't have any small spaces, lots of doors and hallways and stuff, it actually makes it feel like it's a smaller ship than this. Anyway, let's go ahead and move up this stairwell now. And before we go through that door, we're going to turn around and look, and you see we got some nice detailing on the ceiling here, and a nice cut in, and a little lights heading up and down this paneling. And you can even see the fact that if we run back down here, it actually cuts out into the ceiling space of this room here a little bit. And that's something I forgot to talk about, the floors and the ceiling of this room. The floor here is that big door I mentioned that was on the bottom of the ship. You can see here that it sort of has these clamps that look like they would pop up, and then these center sections would maybe move down and then into the sides of the ship, or maybe even out, and a docking collar I assume would extend. Don't know, we can't open and close this yet, unfortunately. And then at the ceiling we have this pretty cool lighting setup here, which is pretty damn nice. And we got some cool pipes actually coming from the sides here. You can see how they connect and then arch up and then across the ceiling. There's a lot of really nice detail in that. Liking that a lot. Some weirdness with those lines there. I'm not sure what those are about. I wouldn't expect a line, yeah, straight across this sort of support here. But some weirdness with that. The other lines here, like these here, I'm kind of alright with, but the ones right here across this otherwise pretty small piece of metal throw me off a little bit. Anyway, let's go ahead and move back up here again, and this time we don't have to actually look at the button. We can look at that, press it, and voila, we're in another section of the ship, which is, I just love the fact that there are different sections of the ship sealed off by doors like this, and then the fact that this section is sealed off by doors as well to other sections of the ship. It just makes it feel more like you would expect the spaceship to be, lots of different areas. Now, these things here, I believe, are shield generators. When I first saw these concepts and the sort of circular things these connect to on the outside, I was almost thinking they were some sort of propulsion system like something from The Matrix. A lot of people didn't like the Matrix scenes that were out in the real world, probably just because this not as interesting as the whole Neo superpower, or at least, you know, Neo the one thing from the first one. But I actually really adored the engine design of all the human ships in the Matrix movies. And so I thought maybe this would be a ship with something like that, but I guess these are just shield generators. They're designed to take a bit of a punch. You can see how they would sort of move, sort of, I guess, dampening the blows of whatever's hitting the shields. Pretty cool, though. I don't even know what's going on. Bits of floating texture there. I think it's a part of the outside of the ship just sticking through. But it's pretty cool. Yeah, pretty damn cool. Higher FOV would make this feel a lot more like you're actually there walking around, but it is pretty nice stuff. And there's lots of yellow guard railing here, and just lots of nice detail on this stuff. Pipes and stuff coming out of the sides here, running down. And you see here they even have a pipe coming out of this one, and then all the pipes sort of meet up and go into this control panel here, and into this control panel here. It's pretty cool. Pretty damn cool. I like that a lot. Would be nice to see a bit of diversity where instead of having this bottom wire come to the outside of the other wire, on this side it would be the other way around or something, just to mix it up a little bit, because right now it's just mirrored left or right. But I don't know, it's all pretty good. Nice little lighting at the top, some shiny, super shiny metal. Get the feeling that's maybe not finished, but who knows. Some weirdness up here where you can see the ceiling, I think, actually starts off with sort of a bump there and a bump there, both leading up. But then as it gets up here, it looks like it drops down gently. So we end up with some of these where you can see the model's lines. Maybe that's intentional. It could be, possibly be. If this line from here to here levels out, that might be intentional. And then this is all maybe flat here, but I can't quite tell with the lighting in here. And I don't have a flashlight to shine around. Anyway, got a nice little vent up here as well, and some nice space above this, I'd assume, with the AC unit, or whatever you want to call it. Some ventilation stuff. 2 fire extinguishers. Minor overkill. Would be kind of cool to only see one, I think. And then we got where the floors come. So we've had all this paneling we've just been mindlessly walking on here. Pretty cool stuff. You can see how it's all put together with a few little seams and stuff. And yeah, lots of nice paneling work on the walls here. You can see it's slightly bumping up here, for I'm assuming the outside of the ship is now coming up to the cockpit area. And then we got this little control panel right here. Well, big control panel here, but it looks like a panel we could almost open right there. Once I get the FPS module in, it'll be a lot easier to look at some of this stuff because you'll be able to lay down on the ground. I got some, I have no idea what, ports of some sort. Maybe this is emergency power. More of the same controls here. I'm not sure how many of these will actually be usable in the full game. And then we got the actual cockpit, which I'm going to go ahead and hop into really quickly. So you can see I press that, that spins around, we press this button, and we get into it. You can see we had a little bump up there where we had this step up to get into the cockpit. But then you see it spins around and we're at the controls, and my hands are horribly broken. Remember, the ship's not flight ready, so that'll be fixed by the time it is. And if you look at the left side of the screen, you can see some wonkiness there on the model work there. So the ship is definitely going to be having some more tweaks before it's flight ready, I'm sure. But pretty cool. I like the overall ideas and designs of these control panels. Pretty cool stuff. Some older sort of like almost LCD-like panels there. Pretty cool stuff. Pretty damn cool stuff. And I'm sure we'll get a proper spherical radar of some sort by the time this thing is flight ready. Anyway, let's pop out of that, and whew, camera spurged out a bit. There we go. Step down that step. And once again, my game alt-tabbed, and this time Windows popped up with a message saying, do you want to change your color scheme? Getting a stable 60 frames per second, don't need to, Windows. Stop telling me that you'd like to change my color scheme. Anyway, let's carry on down the ship, and I thought that was smoke here. I guess it's just some weird texture thing going on with that back panel there. Let's go ahead and go through this door here. And this leads up into sort of the living quarters area of the ship, which is pretty damn cool. Oh, by the way, something I should have pointed out earlier. As we hop down here with some frame drops, give it a second. It's just because we alt-tabbed. There we go, back up to 60 stable. So something that should be noted is there's usually going to be a door right here as well. So the cockpit's even completely sealed off from the rest of the ship, which is pretty damn cool. I'm loving all these nice little doors. I wish the Constellation took all of its floor space and cut it up in this way. Anyway, let's close that door. Pretty awesome. Got some storage racks up here, just above this little compartment here, which you might say, what's the point of this? Well, it's just for the stairs coming up. They needed space there, so it's probably just, imagine it's full of some necessary machinery too, as well as the stairs. Above us here, we've got some nice lights that sort of pop out from the walls, and sort of it looks like they're holding up the ceiling. And you can actually see there's a nice little bevel and edge around the where it connects into the wall itself. Pretty cool. A lot of really nice detail in this section of the ship. The interior of the ship actually catches my eye a lot more than the exterior. The exterior looks great from afar, but you get close and you sort of wish there was a little bit more dense detail in spots, but the interior really pulls it together, and I like it a lot. Wow. And you can see these little cabinets here. I'm assuming they're cabinets where you'd stick your hand in there and pull, and the thing would probably pop open. You can see there's a bottom seam there, so it'd sort of be where you'd store whatever. You do have your coffee maker and two little cups, sink, stove. It's like a full stove. This thing sort of is starting to remind me of a camper van, as you would sort of expect from the Constellation, because it's supposed to have its tables and all that, except for this one's better equipped. And then we got some more storage stuff here, more pipes and stuff where you can see, I'd actually expect that one to be full red like that one, because nothing's plugged in, but it's pretty interesting. You see they lead up into what is a turret area there. Pretty cool. And then if we turn around again, slowly making our way sort of around this way, and then going back and checking the other wall, you can see we have the control panel here, another fire extinguisher. This ship appears to be just full of them. And then we have what are, I believe, are beds, but they're very small, like scary small. I guess you'd fit in there, and with how luxurious this is, I'm sort of surprised that these beds are so small. You can see they actually cut into the wall a fair bit. I'd almost expect them to go all the way to here, just taking up more space, and that way you could have maybe 6 beds or 4 beds, but they'd be slightly bigger instead of just the 3 that we have now that we can't get into, and they're very cramped looking. I'm pretty sure you could open them up and fit in there pretty easily, but it would not be exactly the most luxurious thing. And unlike a lot of beds that we see, there's no screens or monitors in there from what I can tell. Maybe that's one right there, but bit odd. Bit odd. Now let's go ahead and keep moving, and it's a bit weird that this one's just completely sealed off like that. Maybe it's storage. Let's keep moving. We'll go ahead and start back here again and look at the floors. A nice floor pattern, the way they have the gray sort of jog over and go, almost making a path down to this thing here. Pretty nice. And we got our table here that I sort of breezed over. I'm going back to this now because we got the little ball joints at the side that allow these to move forward and back. And then I assume maybe it would sink into it for up and down if you need to adjust them. Pretty interesting stuff. This whole thing doesn't look like it folds up. It just is permanently down. But it's pretty cool. Nice amount of space here. Let's go ahead and push this button if we can. No, we can't. I believe this button, and by the way, my head's sticking through the wall. I'm just doing this so I can take a look and see what's right there. Not sure they can move us too much farther. but I believe that button is supposed to lower this thing down to allow you to get up into the top turret of the ship. Oh, and by the way, another pipe here, but just one. I love the fact that it is different from these. The fact that these had two and that has just one, pretty cool. And you see the connection endpoints there. Very nice. I like that little touch of detail. And I like the ceiling here too. The fact that this is actually a mirrored left to right area, the ceiling, the whole ceiling is, with this sort of thing running and arching over there. Yeah, and the fact that the beds go up and they match with these lights here as these cabinets do with the lights here. Sort of reaching just behind the lights is where it meets the ceiling. That's pretty cool, and that explains why they didn't bring these beds out more. But I still think they could raise these beds up so the bed will have more height in it, and then just have another two here since it doesn't look like the top one's actually functional. Anyway, moving on. Nice details on the floor, not going to go too much into it. And then we have all three doors right here. This door leads to, I believe it's the shower. Again, I wish these ships would use a shower and toilet in one sort of system. Yes, it means somebody can't be taking a shower while somebody else needs to use a restroom, but I'm assuming you're not going to be taking the longest, most luxurious ships in what is supposed to be a ground landing ship of sorts. You're probably going to be wanting to be a bit quick in there. Anyway, let's go ahead and close that. Pretty nice little shower. Nice amount of detail. And then we open this up, and you can see we got our toilet. And we can put it up, and we could even sit down on it if we would like. Got our sink. I believe that's going to be a mirror. It's pretty cool. I love the fact that they have these little spaces and their own little doors. And then we have this here. If we were to open this, you can see it leads into that storage compartment I was talking about earlier. And if we were to actually, I think it's run and jump. Yeah, we can actually sort of glitch and fit our way through there, which is pretty cool. And you can see those large support beams at the top I was talking about. It looks like the actual luggage arm isn't in here, whatever be holding it, but you can see how the door would actually slide on those rails as well. So pretty cool stuff, pretty nice. Nice amount of detail in here for a room that you're probably not usually going to be accessing too much. And of course we can close this door from the other side, which is pretty cool. Door has a little bit of weirdness with that seam right here running along it. It looks like some sort of just normal map silliness. Let's try to get back out of this. Could be a bit finicky. Finicky, yes, very finicky. Maybe run, jump, crouch. Yep, that worked. If we were to close it again, I did notice some more finickiness here where in the other side, these sort of circular bits were right here, but on this side they're offset, and this one looks like it's completely in the wrong place. So some wonkiness going on with there. Anyway, guys, that's it for the interior, I believe. It's pretty nice. It's a nice ship. I love the layout of the ship. I think the lighting is being a bit strange right now. It seems to be all very fuzzy. I'd expect sharper reflections on some stuff, and some of the texture work, I can't exactly put my finger on it. It looks like it's alright, but I don't know. Maybe this yellow here doesn't actually look like it's got much texture to it at all, so I think LEDs might be being a bit funky on the ship and not showing in its best light. But let's go ahead, sit down here, and get a look at the top end of the ship and some more of it from the outside of the ship. So I've gone third person, there we go. And you see the exterior of the ship from this distance is incredible looking. It's very, very nice. Far nicer than it was actually up close. I love the design of the slanted big back door there and the way that this big fin above it comes out with the back door for the luggage as well. It's very, very nice. Very, very nice. And the engines from this distance even look great too. And you can sort of see how they would be having this sort of ripply heat pattern coming off of here, and hopefully a little tiny amount of flame coming between all these fins as well before we finally have the big flames right here. Pretty cool. I do look forward to seeing this ship in action. Then we have our top turret up here. Very, very similar, if not the same, as the bottom turret. Yep, they look to be almost exactly the same, if not exactly the same. If we were to go ahead and stick our camera in here, we can actually see that there is a seat in here, but of course, as we said earlier, you can't access it, and I can't seem to zoom in just enough to be able to look at the controls in there. What do we have? If we were to actually start at the cockpit, you can see those little gas mask bits I was sort of talking about earlier with this cylindrical thing right here sticking out. And what else do we have? It sort of bumps out, moves back. The actual glass here is pretty cool. There's a nice amount of detail carved into and around it. A lot of nice little bump ins and stuff here. It's very, very nice. And then we have this bump out right here with these little circular things. Not exactly sure what they're for, but I approve of it. Pretty cool. And the way that that little bump out sort of carries on along the sides here all the way under these two circular things on the side, which are those shield generator things I was talking about on the inside, which I had hoped would be propulsion originally. Very, very cool. Oh, by the way, we did pass over this vent on top, so that's pretty cool. Another little vent. Nice amount of paneling work actually on the outside of the ship right here. A little tiny fin for whatever reason. I don't know what the point of that fin is. I'm sort of looking inside to see if I can see anything, but nope, strange little fin. Too close, sorry about that. Nice little amount of detail though on this ship, especially up here by these things, the way it has a lot of bump ins and bump outs around the edges of these things, where you see right where it meets, it doesn't just bump out with a small beveling out or something. It actually bumps in and then goes back out again. That's pretty cool. Oh, now there's a gap there. If you look at the left side of the screen right now, you can see that little bit of light shining through from a hole in the ship. Slightly unfortunate. I'm sure it'll get fixed. Carrying on, we can see those large intakes on the wing I was talking about earlier. Nice little circular whatnot here, some detail. A lot of fins here of some sort. It looks like part of the inside of the ship. Yeah, looks like these things right here are actually encroaching on this machinery right here, and you can see the machinery itself on the inside is also sticking through right here, so that's going to end up needing a little trim. More little fins. I'm not sure how I feel about the little fins. They seem kind of pointless, but I guess in a way they do add a little bit of detail from this distance right here. They just sort of seem right. Interesting. We got this big pylon here sticking out for whatever reason. Don't know its purpose, but I'm sure it probably has one. Looks like it might be part of this large engine here that sort of bulks up. You can see how they have different shapes here sort of stuck together. Like they have the main body, and then they sort of have this little bump out right here from this triangular bit that carries on the whole side here and sort of forms into the main body up here, where you see the cockpit area and the shield generator sort of form into the living area here. Then they have this wing bump out here, and then they have the engine bump out right here, leading all the way back to the far back engine. It's pretty damn awesome. And then, of course, they have this whole section here on the bottom for carrying troops or whatnot that sort of bumps out on its own. It's a very almost modular looking look to the ship. It's kind of interesting. Slightly less slick than the other Aegis ships, I'd actually say, but still very interesting. And then, of course, we have this back fin here that we were talking about, which I like a lot. It's very, very nice. And then the fact that we do have all these modular sections stuck together, but the fact that where they're sticking together, they have such a great divider. Like here, they have this sort of black bar here that sort of gently like bumps up between them, almost like somebody was sealing a window or something with it. But it's pretty cool. It works really well. God, and there's even a nice little bit of detailing right here with this sort of intake here for whatever reason. Pretty cool stuff. Anyway, guys, this is the Retaliator. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Next Great Starship. Made by fans who won the competition. Pretty awesome stuff. Pretty awesome stuff. It looks great. I can't wait to see it fly. Personally, I'm not too keen on one thing in specific on this ship, and that's these little wheels right here at the sides. They look a bit silly, but I guess they needed to balance it out. With such huge engines, it would just fall over. I much prefer landing skiffs than wheels on all my ships, though. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with the ship overall. Still going to trade it in. There's still a lot of little issues here and there. And I think just the game is having some trouble rendering metals right now in some way, shape, or form. But I'm sure it'll get there. I'm sure everything will be patched up. And, of course, the devs have, I believe, upped the amount of guns on this. So I think they're going to be putting guns maybe on these little wing sections right here now as well, on that circular bit. Anyway, guys, that's it for this ship. Sort of stumbling look at it this time. Compared to the Gladius, it didn't sort of naturally flow as easily. But I think that's just because it has so much more, all the bump outs and stuff, so you can't just go from front to back. It's a bigger, more advanced ship, so you wouldn't expect it to flow quite as easily. Overall, though, it still looks like a very nice, slick ship. I look forward to seeing it flying. Pretty cool. I just probably won't be the one flying it. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this, and I shall see you next time.